Waiting if anybody's going to come on. I'm home from my little 2-day political trip to Springfield, and I got a lot of messages yesterday from people asking if I was going live yesterday. That's I'm assuming that was because of Paul Kaluzinski saying last week that we'd be going live on Wednesday for Melissa, but I was out of town for Wednesday and Thursday, so I wasn't able to go live yesterday. So I'm live now, so if anybody comes on, what did you guys want to talk about? So I'm just gonna putter around for a little bit. You'll see there's 3 people on right now. Ask me your questions, I'll tell you no lies. And if nobody comes on or has anything to say, then I'll just end it. Six people now. So Jack's West. Time frames on anything you can share? No, Isaac. The only thing I know is it's typically from the filing 60 to 90 days that the court has to rule. So we're told beginning of September. So that's all I know on that one. And then Kathleen got Bobby's computer, what is it, 5 days ago now? And she only gets it for 10. So I do not know if we will ever hear what the state found on the computer. You know, if that comes out, I don't know if we'll hear what Kathleen, you know, didn't she file to suppress something or seal something? Sorry, not suppress, seal something. So I don't know. Well, people. Hi, Lynn. Check my email because I just got Google alerts for both Making a Murderer and Brendan to see if those have anything of substance in them. Nope. That one's yet another article talking about Brendan Dassey's mother gives Avery legal team a computer. And this one is the same one. Wade, if it's Barb's computer, wonder why she only gets it for 10. I don't know. And hi, Brandy. Good. I saw your post this time. I don't know why it's only 10 days. I have no idea. I mean, that sounds unbelievably unfair that the state had it for 7-8 months and she has it for 10 days. I don't know. Oh, now I just scrolled down too and saw Brandy saying, can you see me today? LOL. If anybody is a Facebook pro, expert, whatever, I'm technologically challenged. And so the issue Brandy was having the last live is she would post comments on here and they wouldn't appear in the stream. So I didn't see them. And then other people had said they didn't see them either. So, and she's not blocked or muted or any of that crap. So why does that sometimes happen? And then like when I post like a picture or an article, sometimes people can't see that attachment. You know, even moderators from Stephen Avery Project, you know, so they're obviously not blocked and they have moderator power and they can't see it. Or I make these videos But if I get a notification saying somebody added a comment on there and I look on my iPad through the browser, I can't see the video. So if anybody is an expert and can tell us how we can fix that, or if it's on the other end on something they need to do, please, PM the page or something and let us know how we can fix that, because I apologize to Brandy and those of you who experience that. Liam, is it possible she has changed the hard drives in the PC? Well, it's possible, but you have those 7 DVDs from the original trial. So everything that was on there should still be there, unless Barb has said, oh, I had changed it over these years from when they were convicted, So, but again, I'm not a computer expert, but I would think it would be pretty freaking obvious if she replaced those hard drives. Plus, then what did the state find in the 7 months they had it? So I don't know. Oh, Tommy always knows the right answers. Tommy says, I think KZ is the one that said she needs it for 10 days. Okay, I thought that's what I had read. I didn't see anything from the court saying 10 days. Maybe I missed something. And hi, Betty, and hi, Anna. And so that's everything that's posted so far. Since this is the gossip group, maybe I'll cover this and people won't get all upset about, because again, this is a gossip group where we talk about bullshit, drama, stupidness. We typically don't do that on the Steven Avery Project. But what happened recently is Barb came onto Steven Avery Project. She came to the 2 different posts I had made. One was a live video, and these were on the public page. And the live video I had titled, Barb gives Bobby's computer to KZ. And then there was an article discussing that, and I had titled that the same thing. So those were the things Barb was targeting. So her very first post, which also means when I first saw I didn't even know the post was in there. A moderator sent me a screenshot that Barb had posted, and I was like, what? Barb's had me blocked. So she had unblocked me. Now, when I'm on here as Steven Avery Project, even if you have me blocked, I can see you. Don't think I can't. And we do go through our members list. And if I go through the members list and you're blacked out on there, meaning you have me blocked, I delete you from the page, because that's a rule on every Facebook page. You can't block the admins or the moderators or you're gone. So Barb had posted, duck you, Jax. So obviously she was trying to say fuck you, because I know I say fuck and type fuck an awful lot. And every time I try to type it on my phone, it tries to autocorrect it to duck. So she said, fuck you, Jax. And then she said, Jax doesn't know anything. And then she just kept wanting to defend that it's not Bobby's computer and it had moved all around the house and everybody had access to it, the same old bullshit. And then we have had some of Barb's followers post on Steven Avery Project where they're attacking me, and they're claiming that they're saying, because since Barb's there, I posted question after question after question on everything that Barb has done and some of the inside information I know, asking her questions. And so her fans are saying I was bullying her, but I'm not bullying her. It's Steven Avery Project, which I own, and she came here. So she came to my home and she said, fuck you, Jax, you don't know anything. And I'm bullying her. So we have some of her followers that were in here and talking shit about me or whatever. We have banned them because this is a page for people who support Steven, not Barb's fans. So go to Barb's group if you want to, kiss Barb's ass, because that's not happening here. And of course the guilters have taken it too and, saying crap and whatever. I don't really care. So I'll scroll down now from here to see if there's any questions or any comments or whatever. Amy says, morning from Oz, love your work. Thank you. Hi, Rita. Hi, Sarah in Scotland. Betty Ann says, oh my God, I saw that. Oh, and that's another thing before I read the last couple that are on here. There were people too, back to when I'm asking for a Facebook book expert. Then there were people who want to read that drama and would go to those threads, and then they couldn't see those posts. So I don't get it. And then once again, I apologize if any of you are here that tried to see it and couldn't. I don't know what that is. You know, we here at Steven Avery Project, we don't block and ban people and mute them unless you're a total asshole. You know, so if you come here talking shit about me or any of the people affiliated with Steven Avery Project, if you come here and talk shit about Steven or even Brendan or Steven's parents. And Sandra Grayman is somebody that I still protect as of now. We'll see with the drama that occurred between her page and Steven Avery Project, if that will change. But for the most part, no, we, you know, and so if anything like that ever happens to you, please message the page and let us know. You know, obviously we haven't been able to fix it so far because I don't know what it is, but let us know what you're seeing, or, you know, so don't automatically assume you've been banned or blocked. Facebook is being really weird lately, so I don't know what's going on there. Sorry, my dog's squeaking a toy. Jennifer says, hi, I am new and just wondering if you know Barb or Steven Avery personally or just from the case. I started on this just from watching Making a Murder. I didn't know anybody. I live in Illinois, but I had just watched the show and became a supporter from there. I have met Barb. I was friends with Barb until she turned on me. And I've met a bunch of the family. I've met Dolores and Chuck. Chuck is Steven's brother. Chuck's daughter, Carla, who is evil incarnate. Scott Toddick, Pete Dassey, Brian Dassey. I think that's all that I've met from the family. And I'm not on Steven's visitors list. He calls me when he wants. No set day of the week he calls me. No set routine. It's whenever Steven calls me, he calls me. So, because Steven considers Steven Avery Project, he refers to it as his website. So once I took over Steven Avery Project from Curtis Bussey, who started it, Curtis went and visited Steven because Curtis lives in Wisconsin in that area. So he went and visited Steven and told him that I was now taking ownership and passed on my information. And so Steven's been calling me ever since then. So we've had Steven Avery Project for almost 2 years now. So Liam, what does KZ make of the victory for Uyghur? Will it have any impact for Steve? I haven't heard if, you know, what she thinks about Uyghur's victory. I don't know. I don't know if it means you know, Uyghur's. I don't think Uyghur has more access to evidence than he would have already had before. So I don't know necessarily how it, you know, will hurt him. Maybe it would hurt him if he was freed, if, you know, Uyghur then wanted to cause trouble for him. I don't know. Dave says, hi, Jax. You are doing a great job. Let's get those guys home. Absolutely. You know, we all know they're completely innocent. I know the guilters keep posting about that there's no proof. And somebody showed me a screenshot of somebody posting on another page or on the guilter page saying that and they're absolutely right, everything from Stephen's case is circumstantial. Everything that's there right now about Bobby, that's evidence. That's something of substance. You don't have anything on Stephen because every single thing there is, it's tainted. It wasn't there. Oh, but look, in later it's there when Lank and Colburn are in the room. Bullet, oh, it's not there, it's not there, it's not there. Then it's there, not covered in dust, when Lank and Colburn are there. Blood, did he have gloves on? Because why aren't there fingerprints? If he has gloves on, then why is the blood there? So, and the cut was, down on the finger, whatever finger it was. So you have nothing on Stephen. There's no, when they keep saying they need a motive, again, no motive. Nobody still can tell me from the guilty side what is his motive. Give me a realistic motive. And it's cricket. There's no motive. So circumstantial evidence. Betty Ann, I love the fact that Stephen is able to know how many supporters are out there for him and his parents. Yeah. So, and he knows about the multiple groups and, all that kind of stuff. So, and I will send him on occasion the private messages that come in for him. And I talk to him about the messages and all the different countries that people are from. So, and he laughs, because, it's cool, Jenny says, hi, Jax, doing an awesome job, mate. Let's hope Zellner not only frees Steve, but also blows everything out of the water. Really excited at the thought of seeing Bobby and Scott getting arrested. Ha ha. You and me both. And as I said to Barb in those barrage of posts I made when she posted the other night, just come forward, Barb. I know you don't like Scott. So why are you protecting Scott, first of all? And then in Bobby's case, why is it okay for that sick boy to be free, but your sweet boy to be in prison? Shouldn't your sick boy be the one in prison who's looking up dead babies, murdered little girls? Something's wrong with him. And he's got children. I know that's the excuse you've used before on poor Bobby. He has kids now. What is he doing to those kids? He's going to murder this girl. What is he doing to his kids? So, sorry. Sharon, going from the last feed, is it worth going after Bobby's computer devices he's using now? Thank you for this group. I don't know if they can, because he's not a suspect. So I don't think they could just take the stuff he has now. I don't know the legal stuff on that. So, and the state's not going to make him a suspect. So, I don't know. Marta says, I wholeheartedly think Stephen is innocent. It baffles my mind how the same thing happened to same person by the same people 2 freaking times. Insane. I don't get it. It's horrible. I can't imagine. And then Marta continues saying, how could she have made that choice? I have looked at his Facebook. He looks so normal. Yeah, he does. And, Bobby, Brian, and Blaine don't have the same kind of IQ that Stephen and Brendan had. I don't know. I mean, I know it's your child, but your child is hurting other people. And then Brendan. Sweetest thing ever. And you're really okay with him being in there? Amy, and am I saying that correct? A-M-E, by calling you Amy, or are you Amy? I was watching YouTube videos and saw Jody's interview and Lynn talking about how abusive Stephen is. It's the first I'd heard of those accusations. What is your opinion on that? Lynn doesn't have a fucking leg to stand on. Lynn, as people call her, a gold digger. She used Stephen and is still trying to ride that wave for people to pay attention to her. So we didn't abuse Lynn. Jody, they argued, yelled at each other. I think he shoved her at one point. She's a drunk. She's got multiple DUIs, lost custody of her child. It's not right for a man to ever put his hands on a woman, but the stuff that Jody and Lynn are like the same now. They can't ride the yay, we love Stephen train anymore. So now they're on, we think he's guilty. Jody knows he's not guilty because she was on the phone with him. There's those 2 calls from her when they're talking about married and she wants rose petals and all that. A guy who just murdered and raped a girl an hour ago isn't going to talk like that. Is going to be like, I can't talk to you now, I'm busy. Sorry. Or not answer the phone. Kind of busy. So she knows he's innocent. Amy, yep. Okay. Jenny, Marta, watch all the crime shows. It's mind-blowing to see all the criminals and realizing that they all look normal. Scary. Problem I have with all the criminal shows, and I've talked about this before, is I've watched them for years. And I just, sadly, just took it as what happened. Whatever I was shown on TV, I didn't really think too much of it. And it wasn't until Making a Murderer that I go, holy shit. These things really aren't all what they seem. Because I've seen other sides of the Stephen Avery case on what if I had seen that first? I mean, I did go back, after Making a Murderer and do my research and showed that, and all the evidence, all the research points to innocence. But I never did that with any other cases before that I really looked into them to see, because I watched the show and moved on. So I now have to second guess when I watch stuff. I'm going, ooh, what's the truth here? Okay, I'm being messaged to read something in a private message. While I'm waiting for this stuff to pull up over on my other screen. Victoria says, can't Bobby be charged on viewing this type of stuff? Sorry, not sure what the laws are over there on accessing this type of violent child abuse stuff, etc. Absolutely. He should have been. So, is that part of the deal? That they're not going to get Bobby on his child porn? And you say you saw Teresa walking towards his trailer. Why won't this? Oh, there it is. Sorry. Okay. I'm told to read. Whoops, I'm going the wrong way then. Read number 4 over here. I don't know where this post is from, but the number 4 on here says, do not listen to Stephen Avery Project, aka Jax. It is your money and you are free to send it wherever and however you choose to. If you want to send it to the jail, send it to the jail. If you want to send it to Barb so Scott can buy more dope, go for it. If you want to send it to Zellner, send it to Zellner. Zellner doesn't want people sending money to anyone in the family, but she certainly doesn't care if you give it to Stephen directly at the prison. Ever notice the people that have stolen the most seem to have the most control issues? Who is this from? Who posted this? Who posted this? I'm just having the screenshots of somebody talking about it. Oh, it's Laura Keck. She's a fucking idiot. Laura Keck defended herself in her child custody battle, and so she thinks that makes her a lawyer. So let's listen to Laura Keck, who said really nasty things about Brendan, sexual nasty things about Brendan. I booted her after she did that. So yeah, let's listen to Laura Keck. Fuck off. Sorry. Amy, that's what I thought too. Her story from the show versus the interview were night and day. Jenny, and Barb, if you're watching this again today, you can't watch this one. Sorry. That's why I put it in MAM Gossip. This is a closed group. And unless she's got somebody in here, which they usually do, have somebody that's in everything that's spying, or somebody who has a fake Facebook. So she won't be seeing this. I purposely did it over here just so we can say whatever we're saying today. Maybe I'll do one over on the public one just because I like to try and taunt her and try and draw her out then. Take my advice, sweetness. Don't turn your back, lady, because at the moment you are living with and around some very psychotic people, unpredictable. They may have you scared to talk, but believe me, they will get you anyway, regardless. At least if you talk, you will have some support, because at the moment you have nothing. Hear, hear. Marta, how do you think how long do you think, sorry, I still should really go and get my eyes checked. How long do you think we have to wait before we see justice being served on behalf of Stephen and Brendan? I don't know. I mention this every time that Kathleen says typically it takes her 15 years to get them out. And she's only been on Stephen's case for 2.5 years, right? So because our court system is constantly 1 step forward, 2 steps back, 1 step forward, 2 steps back, so, I hope it moves fast and he can be home by Christmas and spend Christmas with his mom and dad. I'm a little more concerned with Brendan because there's nobody to protect him on the outside. He, is surrounded by pariahs and Dassy Nation who are going to exploit that boy. So unless, but I don't know where he goes, because if Barb and Scott are implicated, well, maybe he can go to Pete, but Pete has shown to not be all there because he's controlled by Barb. That post that, and we've already talked about this in a live before, but that post that Kim Ducat posted, which was screenshots of Pete repeating to Barb, which things I'm sure that Barb told him to send so she could have, like Pete said it himself, where he was saying lies about his son Brad, where, think what you want about Brad. He's never said anything bad about his dad. And so one of the things that Pete addressed in there was, that Brad says bad things about him, and he absolutely doesn't. So, and, and Pete is married to Stephen's ex-wife. So is that a healthy environment for Brendan to go to? Because he can't live on his own. He's not going to be able to be on his own, when he's free. He can't get a job. He's recognizable, and there's always going to be guilt or idiots. And what are they going to do to him if they know where he works? Are they going to go harass Brendan? So he can't just go into the world. But he has nobody in his family that will treat him well. Hopefully Laura Nyrider, because I know Laura Nyrider really cares for Brendan. And of course she knows the family situation. So I really hope Laura will find somebody that can take care of Brendan when he's free. Kim, I cannot understand how a mother and sister cannot support Stephen and Brendan. Unbelievable. I don't know. Sharon, also on last live feed, it was discussed about who should be with juveniles. In the UK, we have appropriate adults. If a solicitor is not available by appropriate adults, it means a teacher or social worker, etc. Someone that the juvenile knows, and a parent is also allowed. Very nice. Yeah. I think, it should be mandatory. Can't talk to a juvenile or mentally impaired. So I guess even technically in the case of Stephen, I can't remember the numbers. Again, I've told you guys a million times, I have a number thing. I know there's 70. I think I've seen 71. I don't know. So I can't remember exactly what the numbers are for Stephen and Brendan and what their IQ is. But, Stephen's right where Brendan is. So should it have been mandatory for Stephen to have a lawyer in that room? I also don't know for sure what the number is where you're really saying they're mentally impaired. I don't know. But, well, actually, it should just be mandatory everybody gets a lawyer. I don't know the law. So it should just be everybody gets, bam, you're automatically represented. Because anybody this could happen to. Because not everybody who's in prison that are wrongfully convicted are, somebody who's mentally impaired or a child. So everybody should have legal representation. So that's why something all you out there should know, again, is if you're ever questioned by the police for anything, you say nothing. Say lawyer. Chris, talk about Lynn. Why do you think she is still around? She is now married. You would think her husband would like her being in the ex-fiance's business. And I don't know where it is. I can't remember, because Lynn and I used to message back and forth. This is when she was dating Stephen, and things were good between her and Stephen. And she was being attacked by the family. And so I'm running Stephen Avery Project, which is, as Stephen says, like his website. So I reached out to Lynn, because I was offering her support, because, she was getting attacked hard. And we went back and forth, and everything was fine, but I did find things odd. And then she went on that Dr. Phil show. And the Dr. Phil show is so bizarre to me, because when you watch it, the beginning of the episode is talking about how she loves Stephen and they're together and blah, blah, blah. And then somewhere, and was it a two-parter? I can't remember. But then somewhere near the end, all of a sudden now she's talking about they're not together anymore. But she's there in one day. So we're together and now we're not. And then that whole creepy thing of the Dr. Phil show bought her a wedding dress, her the wedding dress. Oh, I guess Laura Keck is also accusing me of stealing, even though she knows I didn't either. Oh my God, she's a piece of shit. Sorry. What was I talking about there? Lynn. And then like Lynn had gone to visit Stephen, and there was something about, I can't remember how this all went down. Maybe the Stephen Avery Project moderators will remember this better. But it was, she was going to meet with Curtis, who started this page. And, but then later she was saying Curtis tried to run her off the road. Really weird. I don't know. And the guy she's married to was her ex-husband. So, it's all very odd. So Lynn just, obviously, she wants to be in the limelight, but there's no limelight being a guilter. Oh, wait. Richard Donovan's going to be on that whatever thing that's being made, convicting the murderer piece of shit. Where it's Ken Kratz and Sweaty Sweat, and, you know, all those people. So, which I strongly advise when that comes out, you know, Stephen Avery Project will not mention it. I'm not going to tell you where you can watch it, any of that. I'm not going to watch it. Anybody who's a supporter that would be affiliated with that, talk to those people. No. So there's what, well, you guys go to the, I know some of you have talked about going into the Guilter group. So you see how many people are on there. What is it, like 200 and something? There, you know, there's really no fame in that. So I don't get it. It's stupid. Kim Moreland. Can Brad not care for Brendan? I don't know. Brendan, Carla turns Brendan against the people that Barb doesn't want in Brendan's life. So I'm sure as of right now, Brendan probably hates him. So I don't know. Jenny says, has Scott's mom's place been tested for blood? She was in hospital, and I reckon Bobby panicked and ended up taking Teresa to Scott's. I'd bet so much on it, on if it was tested for blood there, they would find all the answers. Well, I think the real place people were talking about is Scott's trailer, where Bobby said, because Scott's trailer at that point wasn't that far down 147, and that's where Bobby said he was going hunting. And didn't that trailer mysteriously burn up? Somebody let me know if I'm remembering that correctly. So I think that's been a place that's been suspected. Rita says, I feel some gold digger will get her hands on him. So sad. Stephen Avery Project says, so do I. And I see Amy has joined us, so I'm sure Stephen Avery Project is Amy. So if Amy's on here, she can answer stuff too, because she was really tight with Barb and Scott and Brendan. She visited Brendan. Her and Brendan had a really tight bond, and Barb felt threatened by that. So, but yes, I feel gold diggers are already on both Stephen and Brendan. You know, and we talked about this before, that Barb made this, you know, big announcement to try and, you know, stop people from seeing that she wasn't turning over the computer, that, look, Bobby, or, sorry, I'm being a typical old mom saying the wrong names. Brendan has a girlfriend. So that's the family pimping Brendan out. So whatever. Brandy, I still see you, Brandy. Have you heard any more about this newly assigned girlfriend for Brendan? I haven't heard anything. I I haven't been sent anything. So, and I was checking stuff while I was gone the last 2 days, but I haven't been sent anything on that, so I have no idea. Kim, Brendan needs a safe place. Surely someone will step up that truly has his best interests in mind. Well, now that she's here, the best place for Brendan is Amy's house. And when Brendan's conviction was overturned, things were being put into motion because you have to prepare and report where Brendan's going to go. So everything has to be made. So I'm just going to say this. No, dog, just lay down. And Amy can type on here too. So Amy was checked and cleared and got approval, blah, blah, blah. Brendan was coming to live with her. Barbara and Scott were going to come too. All right. Amy, husband, 2 kids that live with her, and then she's got an older son who's older and out of the home. They rent a house, but it wouldn't have been big enough for everybody. Amy's lease was coming, and Scott was being real particular for where Amy, what the house had to be like, because Scott and Barb were going to come and stay at Amy's house too with Brendan. And so Amy took on this house that is bigger than she needed for her family and also cost more. Barb and Scott never offered to give her a dime. And then all of a sudden, nobody tells Amy, but knock it off. Nobody tells Amy, lay down. They then changed the arrangements that he was going to go to Cribbets. Hold on, I have to let my dog out because he's not going to stop. Hold on. So, Amy has a signed lease for a house her family can't afford to house them, and they didn't tell her in advance that they changed the plan. I truly don't think there is anyone that loves Brendan as much as Amy does. And Amy has a son, a teenage son, who looks, talks, acts just like Brendan. Maybe we'll post a picture in here of one of the times that Jake visited Brendan in prison, so you can see how similar those 2 boys are. And so Jake has visited Brendan. Brendan called Amy all the time, and a section of the call would be reserved for Jake. They both have their video game loves, you know, all that. And Jake was looking forward to showing Brendan all the games that are out now that, you know, Brendan hasn't gotten a chance to check out. Because that's something in one of my calls with Brendan when I was asking him what kind of job would he want. And he wants video games. He wants to be like a video game tester. You know, video games are his thing. So the best place for Brendan is with Amy. And I will forever stand by that. Nobody's going to love that boy as much as Amy and care for him and protect him like Amy would. Laura, dang, I just saw your live, 25 minutes behind. Can you tell what's new? I was busy reading the crap on the Guilters page. There's nothing new. It was, people were messaging me yesterday asking if I was going live. But I think that might have been because Paul Kaluzinski had said that we were going to be doing a live on Wednesday, that Melissa was going to call from prison, and that her supporters would be able to talk to her through speakerphone. And I've been out of town on a political convention thing for the last 2 days. So I'm like, all right, I just got home. I unpacked and went, all right, we'll go live and see what you guys want to talk about. So nothing new. Rita says Dr. Phil set him up. And Kim said Dr. Phil's show was a mess. And Nancy Grace was awful as well. Yes, because here's the thing. They did not have permission to have Stephen on the phone. Stephen thought he was just making his scheduled call with Lynn. No idea that they were doing that and putting him on the air and all that crap. And I know this from, I've had TV shows and such contact me about going on talk shows and stuff. Well, and this is something people don't know too. People have asked Amy and I to go on talk shows and talk because of our involvement in all of this. And we don't, because again, it's not best for their cases. So we don't. But I know from all of that Dr. Phil pays most out of all those little talk show things. So Gold Digger got some bank. Kim says, it's sad that we, complete strangers, are more invested in getting justice than people who are family and friends or associates. Blows my mind. And Rita said, right, Kim. I know. Because even family who are claiming they're concerned are not. Again, this is Gossip Group. So Carla Chase, Stephen's niece, Brendan's cousin. Real talk, spill the tea. She's a loser that never had any friends, never been liked. Family doesn't like her. So she's happy to be Queen Bee now and have all these little, her little minions, her little angels, acting like she's, top of the totem pole. People had given GoFundMes, and her son had a GoFundMe recently for Fix My Car. And then Michael Ryan tweeted about it. And then all her little supporters attacked Michael for leave kids out of it. He's out of high school. You're not a kid. And that was idiotic. Yeah. And so that's not attacking a kid. And by the way, you should see messages that same boy sent Amy's daughter. So, you wouldn't be saying, oh, that poor boy, if you saw those messages. Chris, not trying to be mean towards Steve, and I think Lynn has alternative motives, but you can tell she is way out of his league. Exactly. It was obvious she wanted money and probably thought, oh boy. Hold on. Political drama. Sorry. It was okay. Did I read this whole thing? Okay. It was obvious she wanted money and probably thought it was around the corner. Very sad. Yes. Even though, please don't think bad of me, but I think sometimes when I pictures of Stephen or whatever, I'm like, he's really not a bad looking guy, but yeah, Lynn is, when you see them, it's like, oh, this is weird. Same thing when I saw the picture of Brendan and the girl that Barb is pimping him out to. I was like, this girl wouldn't date Brendan. She's a really pretty girl. It's not a knock on Brendan, because I care for that kid. but that girl's not willingly dating Brendan. And Lynn absolutely was looking for money because, just like I said, Amy and I have been asked to go make the rounds, and we don't go make the money on it because we care for these guys. If Lynn is his fiance, shouldn't she care about him and be more concerned? Because Zellner didn't approve her going on that Dr. Phil. So wouldn't you be caring more about what's good for Stephen's case if you really cared about him? Christy, I know there was a random fire around the same time. I'm not sure it was Stephen's trailer. I do know that Scott's trailer. I do know that Scott's trailer is no longer in existence. Well, and there was also a house that burned down around then too, an abandoned house. Okay. Sorry, people still, moderators going about Laura Keck stuff. Kim says, oh, wow, I was thinking Amy would be perfect if she was willing. Amy would do anything for Brendan. It breaks her heart. Chris, the talk shows skew and edit their shows. If you want on, you may end up looking like what they want you to look like. Good, you stay away, right? Roll says, why do you think Barb gave the computer to KZ? My personal opinion, she had no choice. Because at this point, her supporters that give her gas money and gifts, because she's regularly sent stuff in the mail from her supporters, some people were starting to turn on her. So I feel she's been backed into a corner. Whether or not she tried to swap stuff out or do whatever, I don't know. And then also, law enforcement and Barb will just be doing this. Well, they did it when they had it, and she had it when she had it. So I just think this is, she had no other choice because supporters, in her fan group. So yeah, I got to stop saying supporters because they're not supporters, they're fans. People who care more about Barb than they do about what really happened to Teresa and that Brendan and Stephen are in prison for something they didn't do. You're not a supporter, you're a fan. So that's bottom line for Barb. So she has to make sure that her fans are still there. So stop the bleeding, turn over the computer. Chris, right. Not a knock on Brendan, but it would never happen naturally. Right. No. Sam says, hate that Stormy Daniels wannabe. Yeah, were you the first person that had said that? That cracked me up because, yeah. It is, oh, so Laura Keck is posting that in the Innocents Are Guilty group, saying that, oh, okay, that screenshot, what, is Barb, the one that Barb said, I did receive money from Jax for the t-shirts back then, and it's still here in the safe that no one can get it into except me, and that is all here for Brendan when he comes home. Which is still just mind-boggling to me on why after a year and a half or whatever, Barb finally admits that I gave her the money forever ago. No idea. Chris says, people need to only send money to the attorneys. Then there are no questions whether money is put to good use. And I haven't heard back from Zellner. And like I've said in prior things, I'm not important to her. So I email her, and sometimes she emails me back, and sometimes she doesn't. So I emailed her and asked her about that. She hasn't answered me. If anybody anywhere else posts about it, I don't believe them. So people who are pretending to be a lawyer and then talk shit about Kathleen Zellner all the time, if they say this is what Kathleen says, I don't believe it for a second. I'm not going to believe it unless I get it from Zellner myself, pretty much. So maybe tomorrow I'll send another message to her and see if she'll clear that up. That if anything's changed and she okays people sending it directly to the prison for the canteen. Until she tells me that, I will only direct people to her. So I have all my faith in Kathleen and that she's not here to rip Stephen off. But then, like I've said before, there are expenses to his case. So, whatever. But yeah, so unless I hear from Kathleen, I'll be pointing to the lawyer's office. And I don't know why people, and these are, some of them are the same people that talk well of Kathleen, but then are so worried about her getting money and not believing that she would be putting it in his canteen. So, whatever. Brandy, I'd like to see a picture of all of this money in this safe. Is the GoFundMe money in there too? No, GoFundMe money is not there. Barb's been spending it. At least I know of an instance when she spent it, because Amy was even with her when she was spending it. And it was at a time when thought Brendan was going to be released. And so they went out shopping because Amy used to go to Barb's house at least once a month and spend a weekend with her. Barb and Scott pretty much demanded it of Amy to come there. And then they would also make, Scott didn't want her driving. He wanted her, because she's in Michigan. And so he wanted her to take the ferry over. So why? Because then, because there were times that Amy would like take her week's vacation. But then Barb and Scott are still going to work. Amy doesn't have a car. So she's like stranded, so, but it was another control thing. And it was much cheaper, actually, if Amy just drove than taking the ferry. So they went out and bought a TV and a video game system and some of this stuff to, I don't remember all it was. But I'm going to guess that money is not there. And I know there's been people in the fan group that have been saying to Barb that they want to see proof of what's happened with that money, and that people have been reporting her fund. So I'm going to bet you none of it's there. Jonathan says, I came late. Who is Amy? Amy was a supporter. She watched Making a Murderer. She bonded instantly to Brendan because of her son Jake. And so she went to the Manitowoc June rally that I had organized, but then had the big falling out with Carla because she tried to boss me around and I wouldn't let her. So then I couldn't attend it. And so actually my first interaction with Amy was her messaging me to bitch me out because of shit Carla was saying. So Amy had gone to the rally, so she was meeting family for the first time. It was a rally and a camp out and all this stuff. And she really bonded with Barb and Scott. And then she went home from the camp out, and then they reached out to her, and they asked her if she would be the family spokesperson and be admin of the group. That's how close and so fast. Amy and I, from, she bitched at me. I fired back at her. And then she was able to see that what I was saying was true. And so then Amy and I bonded. And during this whole time, I was running Free Brendan. So I was already doing Free Brendan in these articles, and I was friends with Barb, so I had met Barb and visited Barb before Amy had even gone to the rally. So, Barb knows who I am and all that at that time. And so then Amy asked to add me as a moderator because I'm available during the day. Oh, great. Amy works and I'm available during the day. So I was somebody available to keep an eye on the page during the day when people were at work. So Amy was on Brendan's visitors list. So she would go visit him, talk to him all the time. And like I said, she went to spend a lot of time with Barb and Scott. Barb and Scott went to Amy's house for vacation. So that's who Amy is. And so Amy is here on Stephen Avery Project, but she works and has younger children. So she's not on here as much. Well, she comes on here and reads, but she doesn't post a lot. Sam says, if everybody sends money to the jail, he can be bullied and used by the other inmates. Right. It's better not to have a lot on his account and just to get a little by little put into it. Right. I know I've had people say to me when I've said that before, well, Stephen spent his whole adulthood in prison. Nobody's going to boss him around. You never know. So why take that chance? So you're really not going to trust his lawyer who's doing all of this? It would be one thing if she was doing this to Kent Pellegrini. Another one of her cases. Kent pays his legal bill. Zellner ain't giving him, rate like that. Zellner doesn't put stuff in Kent's canteen. Kent's canteen is his money or his family's money that puts in there. So, yeah. Kim says, do you know if Stephen has ever been disciplined in prison? Just curious, since the state portrays him as a monster. I don't believe so. I don't believe Stephen or Brendan have ever been in trouble in prison. So, not that I have heard, but I'm not an expert on that. Chris, the money thing is a hard lesson. People that give hope and trust, it is put to good use. Greed is a nasty trait. #Barb. Right. Well, and that's something, like when you loan money to people, you really have to have it in your head that there's a good chance you're not going to get it back. So don't loan that money to people if you really can't afford to give them money, because there's always that chance you're going to get burned. San says, they say the inmates can get your password. Right, because it's just a code that you're doing on like an ATM machine type thing, screen thing. Chris says, all Zellner's exonerees love her. She does right by them. Very excellent point. So for people who keep thinking that Kathleen manipulates them, didn't she just make a tweet like yesterday or the day before of her with like 3 of the guys that she's gotten out, one of which was Ryan Ferguson that I believe just got another $5 million awarded to him, right? Was it 5 million? Yeah, number, not good with it. So you're right. You don't hear any of the people that she's represented that she took advantage of me or blah, blah, blah. And she has represented famous cases. There's a, other than the Ferguson case, there's a case here in Illinois, the Riley Fox case. You can look that up. Riley, Riley Fox. Look into that case. So, no, and they're very grateful for what she did. Laura says, are the other inmates to Stephen and Brendan? From what I've heard, yes. That neither one has had any issue or been beat up. Let me see. Somebody else messaged me since I don't have any other questions. I looked up the GoFundMe. Look, that Rebecca Nash girl that was talking shit to you in the comments about Barbara donated, you called that one she's a fan. Oh, $5 Friday. Yeah, so that's something they do. The Brendanites do, as they call it, $5 Friday. So her fans, they donate, try to donate $5 every Friday. Yeah, and I'm aware of who Rebecca Nash is because back when I was admin or moderator of Brendan's page, she used to talk to me all the time and say stuff to me all the time. And then they turn. All right, what am I missing down here? Okay, that's more on the Laura Keck bullshit. Kim, I thought not. Stephen does not strike me as a violent person or someone who would lash out if not provoked. Yeah, I know he works in the kitchen. I've talked about that before. And something he joked about to me is he was hoping, because he says the kitchen is really hot. So he was hoping that he would sweat off some weight. So, and then Brendan, I've talked about this before, that he had at one point, again, I don't have any contact with him, so I don't know about currently. There was another inmate that would like work out with him and those kinds of things. So I think both of them are okay. Chris says, right? So no, she isn't stealing their money. Right. I'll have to remember that because that's an excellent point when people say that shit. Christy says, LOL, that was my first interaction with her, with Rebecca. Yeah. I should scroll through my private messages to find when Rebecca used to message me. All those Brendanites used to message me at one point. And ask me for help on things. Lots of them asked me for help on things. But then all of a sudden it's you stole money. And where are my apologies? Where? Because Barb posted that she has the money and it's in the safe. Never stole any money. Kim says, the legal fees must be astronomical. I don't think KZ would steal from someone who basically has nothing, not her style. Right. Jonathan, Ryan Ferguson got 12 million, but only got 2.25, and he had to drop personal liability towards the police involved. The other 10 he sued the other insurance that state had, which would cover up to 10 million, but they settled for 5 million. Okay. Thank you very much, Jonathan. Laura says, when you or someone else says Barbara, you mean Barb. The guilters say Barbara a lot. Well, actually, that's what her family mostly calls her. You know, so when I talk to Stephen and he refers to her, he says Barbara. When I visited Dolores a couple weeks ago, she said Barbara. So I always say Barb, but then sometimes I say Barbara because, you know, of the family saying it. So, yeah, so Barb and Barbara are both the woman who put her innocent son and brother in prison. And I say that, but no, I really don't think Barb's role is that bad. I really think that but the deer changes that, you know, of Zellner saying that Bobby shot Teresa and cut her up in that garage, and Barb was in that garage with that deer. So was she part of the cover-up? But even if she was part of the cover-up, I think she never dreamed it would be Brendan. Stephen was expendable. You know, so she just wanted to protect Bobby, and knowing that the police were coming to the salvage yard, Stephen is the best option to save Bobby and Scott. Yep, same person, Laura. Barb and Barbara, same person. Got a lot of last names too. Avery, Gassy, Yanda, Tadek. And then for those that don't know, Tom Yanda, husband number 2, and Scott Tadek, husband number 3, are cousins. Marta, I don't know how minor her role was. Stephen already had spent 18 years in prison for a crime he didn't commit. She has no defense in my book. I totally agree. So, how long have I been on here? An hour and 10 minutes already. So, anybody else got anything? Because if not, I'll end this and find out what is going on drama from what's now come out from my political trip. Went down to Springfield. I don't volunteer for the Democratic Party and for several of the different candidates. And the last 2 days, the Illinois State Fair is going on right now down in Springfield, and it was Democrat Day. So we were there with a lot of the different candidates and all this stuff. And I guess something's developed from that. The people that went with me, we were discussing on the ride home. So I guess something else has happened. So, all right, no other questions. So I'm going to go and move on to that drama. So again, you ever have after this, so Marta's the last thing I read, the one that says, I don't know how minor her role was. So if you watch this at a later date and you're posting something then, I won't necessarily see it unless you tag me or tag Stephen Avery Project if you have a question. Or you can always private message Stephen Avery Project, or you could private message me to get your answer. Something else just popped out. Oh, Kim Moreland, get some rest. Yeah, I'm on 4 hours sleep, if you couldn't tell. And plus it was a 3 hour, I'm the one that drove everybody down too. So 4 hours sleep and the 3 hour drive. So, all right, I'm going to go. Thanks everybody. See you soon.